conversations on gun violence. I want to bring in Dr. Kenji Inaba from the organization Stop the Bleed. He's also chief of trauma at USC and a police officer with the LAPD. Doctor, that is a great background and resume to have to address this problem. So I just read through that latest detail of the statistics on mass shootings, and I wanted to ask you about Stop the Bleed what it aims to do to help save lives in those mass shootings.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, this is a program that's designed for non-medical personnel. It's a 1-hour program that teaches all the concepts of bleeding control to be initiated and performed before our standard EMS services arrive. So it's a real grassroots program developed by the American College of Surgeons in concert with a lot of other entities. And so far, it's trained 2 million people around the world in these bleeding control techniques.
That's great. I might have had a hostile environment training for reporters who go to conflict zones. It's required, and they do teach you things like that. It's a shame that we have to think that we got to have it in our churches and schools and grocery stores. But what can people expect? Because it did help me certainly have a little confidence. I never had to use it, but in going to conflict zones. So what can people expect after they finish the Stop the Bleed training?
Absolutely. It really consists of 3 parts. The first is how to initiate that 911 call to get the entire medical system in play. Number 2, it teaches you about personal safety so that you do not become an additional victim and how to protect yourself from bloodborne pathogens. And then number 3, it really focuses on 3 techniques: the application of pressure, packing cavitary wounds, and the application of tourniquets. So really by the end of this 1-hour program, which is both a didactic and a hands-on skills portion, the provider should feel pretty confident in getting all 3 of those things going if they encounter a situation like this.
You know, and doctor, I mentioned your experience as a trauma surgeon and as a police officer, and here you are with this program, you know, trying to assist in mass casualty or mass shootings anyway. I just wondered, with your background and with this mission, this work you're doing in this area, what are your feelings about what we're seeing day after day and the proposals for a solution? The big, noisy political fight we have about it that never seems to get anywhere.
You know, that's a great question. I think I've got 2 comments. The first is that there is no question that the escalation of what we're seeing as surgeons, this has got to stop. There are just so many lives that are being wasted every day. And it's something that as a trauma surgeon and as a police officer, as someone that works to Stop the Bleed, it just cannot continue. I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing that's important to remember is outside of these mass casualty incidents every single day, I work in Los Angeles, a very busy city, on a daily basis, and not part of these mass casualty incidents, we see patients that come in shot, stabbed, that are bleeding to death. So I think these principles, this program really apply to everyday life, irrespective of what it is that caused the injury.
That's a great point, and I just want to ask you finally, what kind of feedback do you get from the participants in these programs, from the communities that you serve?
You know, I think the feedback is overwhelmingly positive. I think it's great for people to feel like they're at least armed with the basics to get things under control and to potentially save a life. I think the greatest feedback, though, is when one of these students is leading a normal life and a year later, 2 years later, they get put into a situation where they're able to use these skills. That's probably the best, most rewarding feedback ever. And I think, you know, it's a relatively uncommon situation for that to happen, but when it happens, it's an unbelievably satisfying thing to hear.
It is empowering. As I say, I never had to use the training I had, but it makes you feel a little bit more secure in those situations. Dr. Kenji Inaba, thank you very much for your work and for joining us.
Truly a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.